When finances allowed us to move up market, Janice and I'm Neville, gravitated to Blueberry Way, a cul-de-sac of 10 houses. The numbering was traditionally English, odds on the left, evens on the right, so our number 9 was the last one on the left. Its back garden dropped slightly towards the river, ending at a little fence and not much of a riverbank. Not really suitable for families with small kids, which was fine by us. We had none. Across the road, number 10 was also for sale, and a little cheaper than ours. Smaller back garden. But it had to be this one because 9 is my lucky number. It needed a little work, but at least the most expensive job, new electrical wiring, had been completed. I'd just landed 2 new contracts and the commissions were in the bank. Apart from the occasional midweek trip, I mostly work from home, so I had plenty of time to redecorate. Winter arrived and slowly we got the place together, going for underfloor heating. I could do most of the DIY tasks except plumbing, and Janice was a dab hand at painting. She did a mural on one living room wall that was so beautiful we joked it was more entertaining than the TV. One December morning there was a frost, and Janice was running a bit late for work, so I grabbed her Renault keys and took out a kettle of warm water, not too hot. I sloshed it over the windscreen first, followed by the rest of the glass. Then turned the engine on, heater at full blast, and wiped the windscreen clear with a squeegee. It amused me to note it was exactly 9 miles to Janice's office, and that day, the odometer showed 9,018 miles. Not important, of course, it just caught my eye. It wasn't often it would hit a number divisible by 9, as she also used the car for shopping, and at weekends it might not line up like this till the new year. Tonight, it should be 9,036, and I'd feel obliged to check. That's the kind of pedant I am. "Thanks for warming my car, sweetie. What's the house job for today?" Janice asked. "Last one, I've been putting it off. The cupboard under the stairs. Though I'm not sure what we should do with it. Maybe I'll just paint the inside white," I replied. "Well, good luck. See if you can get a tree if you have time. We'll decorate it this weekend. Now I've got to go," she said, rushing out. I poured another mug of coffee and opened the stairs door. It was just a plain cupboard, getting lower towards the rear, of course. There was paneling fixed to the underside of the stairs, so it was a smooth 45-degree slope, dropping towards the floor until it reached the 3rd step up. That last part was blocked off, too small to be of any use. We had finished unpacking long ago, and I couldn't think what we'd use this for. We already had a coat cupboard near the front door. I suppose it could have housed a fake Christmas tree. But Janice had set her heart on a real one. We'd probably have a go at planting it in the garden after Christmas. Sometimes they survive. The whole cupboard interior looked odd somehow. Hanging just inside the door was a hook. We had reopened the fireplace, more for the ambiance of a real fire than its warmth, and there was a fire tong set in the hearth. This hook under the stairs had a handle and looked just like the poker but with a bent-over end. I had no idea what it could be for, yet was reluctant to throw it out. You know, just in case. Then there was the floor. It was smooth pine boards, which was strange. The rest of the hallway was granite tiles. Covering part of the floor was an old welcome mat, which had probably been at the front door for years. Someone had decided to keep it. But who needs a mat inside a walk-in cupboard? It didn't make sense. Finally, there was a round metal stud at the top of the sloping paneling. It was the size of a 50-pence piece. What on earth was that for? Time for action. I stood up, lifted the hook off the wall, and accidentally kicked my coffee over. I jumped back and let go of the hook. "Darn!" I exclaimed. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a cloth, but when I got back, the coffee was mostly gone. Just my Homer Simpson mug lying on its side. I wiped the wet patch, but it only made the cloth damp, and there was no sign of the hook. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard it hit the floor. I looked up, then lifted the wet mat, and all became clear. There was a small hole in the floor. Next to it was a second metal stud. My hook was directly above my head, hanging from the top stud. So it must be magnetic, and these floorboards were just resting on some kind of frame. The hook was to be inserted into this hole and lifted, so I tried it. Up came the entire floor, and sure enough, the magnetic studs clicked together and it stayed in place. Revealed was a concrete stairway. The top steps had coffee dripping down them. I wiped them and took the cloth back to the kitchen, where I found a torch. At the bottom of the steps was an old warped door. It was locked, but the key was hanging on a nail beside it. With a frisson of anticipation, I ventured in. It was a basement, of course, empty and with no signs of vermin. It was situated directly under our long kitchen diner, a third of the house area. Janice was excited at our discovery, especially at the increase in the value of number 9. The previous owner had probably stuffed junk in the understairs cupboard and never discovered the false floor. It certainly hadn't been mentioned when we viewed it. While we debated what to do with it, I got a quote for extending our underfloor heating and putting lighting down there. That evening, when I popped out to the pub, I checked her Renault's mileage. 9,036, of course. Sometimes I irritate myself. The next day, an expert came and looked at the basement. It was declared dry, free from rot or damp, and very cold. But no mobile phone reception. A check on the 1960s blueprints showed every house in Blueberry Way was supposed to have one, but side notes on the documentation suggested they had been too expensive. Ours, up in the corner, had been the first house built, and was the only one with a basement. "Will the existing boiler cope with extra load?" I asked the contractor. "No problem. Your heating system is zoned," the contractor explained. "I'll put another thermostat and timer down there. Just stick to the discipline of only heating the rooms you're using. Your timer should shut off the upstairs at, say, 7 a.m. Close the doors of any rooms not being used. You'll only have a boiler problem if you set maximum temperature 24/7 throughout the whole house." I left him to work up a quote and said I'd get back to him in a day or so. He guaranteed he could have all the work done before the holidays. The following Tuesday, I had to go away on business. "Where to this time?" Janice inquired. "That company up in Liverpool," I answered. "There's a train tomorrow morning. I'll go straight to the hotel. The meeting is at their offices on Wednesday morning. I'll be back that night." "Okay. Will you drive to the station?" she asked. "Yes," I confirmed. "Good. Then I can put my car in the garage," she noted. "You should. While I'm away, give some thought to what you fancy doing with our extra room, babe," I suggested. "I'll think about it, but I'm not going down there. It's too damn cold," Janice exclaimed. Tuesday morning was icy again, so I did the warm water routine. Her mileage was now 9,124. I got an extra affectionate kiss at the door. "Make sure you call me when you get to the hotel, sweetie, so I know you've arrived safely," she said tenderly. "Of course," I promised. She drove off to work. I have a small hold-all for overnight trips. Put it on the passenger seat of my Audi and rolled out onto the drive. I closed the garage door behind me with a remote. Janice has the other one. Home on Wednesday night, I got a warm welcome. "How did the meeting go?" Janice asked. "Better than expected," I replied. "They've signed up for another 2 years without asking for a discount. We can afford one of those holidays we discussed next summer. You wanted Seychelles, and I fancy Prague, followed by the Dalmatian coast. I'll get some brochures tomorrow." She squealed with delight. I hoped she'd settle for Prague. It was freezing again Thursday morning when I took the kettle out to her car. I noticed number 10 across the road had put Christmas lights all over the front of the house. I suppose if there is a moment, that moment when the worms of suspicion start to wriggle, it was right then. The odometer should have added 4 9-mile trips and read 9,160. Even more, if she'd stopped off anywhere for dinner or shopping, it shouldn't be less. Yet it displayed 9,142. 2 trips, 1 to work and 1 home. Had she got a lift yesterday? I had called her on her office phone, so she'd certainly gone in. "Any problems with car while I was away?" I asked casually. "No," she replied. "Yesterday or Wednesday? It got you to work both days?" I pressed. "Sure. "Why do you ask?" she questioned. "I thought I heard a bit of knocking noise as you pulled away. Perhaps it's just the cold," I said. "No, it's been fine all week," she insisted. "Probably my imagination then," I conceded. But it wasn't my imagination, was it? I sat at the computer in my study and thought about it. Had my wife spent a night away from home? Was she being unfaithful? I soon found what I was looking for, an app that would spy on her phone. That night I borrowed it and plugged it into my computer. A few minutes later, I returned it to where it had been charging. From now on, I could view all her messages, monitor calls, and even check the phone's location. And I could access that info from my computer or from my phone. After she'd gone to bed, I started with the location history. She had gone to work on the Tuesday, but not come home. That evening, her phone had gone to another part of the city and stayed there all night while her car remained at work. It only returned the following night, hence only 18 clocked miles. Logically, she must have gone to the home of a work colleague and slept over, and that would have to be premeditated, as she hadn't returned here for a change of clothes. There must have been some in her car when she left. Could be a woman's friend, of course, but why lie about the car? She knew I'd be away all night, so if it was an affair, why not do it here? Could there be some innocent explanation? While she was occupied on Sunday, I checked her phone messages. It showed activities that were far from innocent. She was having an affair with her boss, and she'd spent the night at his house. I'd met him a couple of times, and being overweight and balding, he made unlikely competition. But the messages mentioned he was expecting a promotion to director level in the new year. Then he would be entitled to a PA. He could interview for a new one or promote Janice. I guessed spending the night with him must improve her chances. Yet the messages also showed she was reluctant to have intimacy in our house, especially in the marital bed. Concerned I might come back early. If I did, she reckoned her absence could be explained. She'd simply stayed with some girlfriend. But for me to arrive and dig her out from under her boss would take more explaining. Suddenly she got a call. I listened. "I won't be in tomorrow, Janice," her boss said. "I think I've got the flu." "Well, I hope you haven't passed it on to me," she replied. "Always possible, I suppose." "I start having the sniffles on Tuesday night," he admitted. "We need to be more careful," she warned. "Why? Catching the flu is hardly a sign of an affair," he laughed. "No, not that. This morning, Neville was asking about my car for some reason. It's probably just my imagination," she explained. "But you have drive-in garage," he pointed out. "The neighbors aren't going to be telling him your car wasn't home for one night." "You're right. I'm just being overcautious," she agreed. "Look, I'm not tech-savvy," he confessed. "But can't you get an app? Find my phone or something? Then you could keep track of him." "Good idea," Janice replied. "I'd feel much safer knowing where he is all the time. I'm not very tech-savvy either, but I could probably get someone to help me." Clever, but I thought of it first. I acted normally over the next week and all went quiet on her phone. I wouldn't know what they got up to at work, of course. But as far as I could tell, they only had intimacy when I was away. The basement got its heating installed, and we bought it some early presents, a big TV and a DVD player. Janice and I sometimes watch films. 2 sofas and a low table completed the ambiance. Now there was no reason to compromise on our type of tree. The real one was in the lounge, and I got a bright fake one for the basement room. The old door was replaced with an external steel one, set in a steel frame. I said we'd make do with it opening outwards and change it in January. Friday night it was ready, and Janice queried the door. "Why a metal one?" she asked. "It's better for the stability of the house. It has to support the floor above," I explained. "I see," she nodded. All nonsense, of course. "But it opens outwards and has a Yale lock. If we forgot the key, we could get stuck in here. It's even got a letterbox," she observed. "The opening is a strange size, so the contractor is having to get one made," I lied. "I wanted to use the room before Christmas, so he's basically lent us this old front door to tide us over. Then he installed it the wrong way round. But it doesn't matter, we'll get the proper one in January. Janice looked dubious. Don't worry, we can't get locked in as there's a spare key, I reassured her. We'll carry one each with our normal keys, and I've hung the third on a hook just inside the basement door. Don't move it. It's for emergencies only. Oh, that's okay then. I like the low lighting. Very romantic, she said appreciatively. I thought so too. And the curtains across that end wall make it feel even warmer, I noted. With the second Christmas tree lit up in front of them, you can imagine there's a window behind there. I've ordered 2 rugs. They should be delivered in January, but it's ready for use now. I noticed. It's lovely and warm, she agreed. Listen, I'm going up to Edinburgh next Tuesday, so pop in here occasionally and check the temperature, would you? I suggested. I'm leaving the heating on low every night to make sure the plaster and paint dry out properly. No problem, she said. This Scottish deal could be my biggest yet, I continued. If I get it, we can take 3 or 4 weeks holiday next summer. If your boss will give you the time off, we can go to the Seychelles and Eastern Europe. Wow, I think I might be able to persuade him, she said with a smile. Yes, I think I know how. One last thing. As it's almost Christmas, I thought I'd visit my mum for a few days while I'm in Edinburgh. She's just over the bridge in Dunfermline, I added. Good idea, she agreed. And when I get back, we'll place the new rugs and some scatter cushions. Then we can watch films and christen the sofas, I said cheerfully. Both of them? I can't wait, she exclaimed. Janice and my mother have never got on. Ironically, Mum always said she was a bit tardy. At the time, I thought that was just the usual, no one is good enough for my son kind of thing. But now I wonder, did she spot something I didn't? Anyway, it would be nice to visit her before Christmas, especially as I did not actually have any business in Scotland, or any plans to go to the bloody Seychelles. That night, Janice left something in her car and went outside briefly. I was ready and checked my computer. How about Tuesday night? My place, she said. We can christen the new sofas in our basement. Your refurb is finished? Her boss asked. Yes, all but some rugs, she confirmed. So, you've overcome your reluctance to make love in your house? He questioned. Yes, this time I have, she replied. It's no problem now I know where he is all the time, but I still draw the line at doing it in the marital bed. On Tuesday, Nev's going to Edinburgh. He could never get back from there in time to catch us. Tuesday it is then, he agreed eagerly. I'll give you an early Christmas present. You have to unwrap it with your teeth. Can't wait, she giggled. Don't leave your car at the office, though. After work, I'll follow you to your place. Leave yours there and get in mine. Then I'll drive us straight into our garage, and no one will see you come into the house. Stay the night, and I'll run you back to yours Wednesday morning. Sounds like a plan. How long is he away? He asked. A few days. Probably till the weekend, she said. He's visiting his miserable old cow of a mother. I can stop over more than once then, he suggested. You'd better, she purred. I want to get thoroughly exhausted before Santa comes. Great! After I give you your present, you're going to be finding it difficult to walk, he boasted. It's starting to sound more like your Christmas present, she laughed. You'll get everything you want, so let's agree on my pay scale now. I know there are 2 entry levels, so pick the higher one. I have enough experience to justify it. I've already checked. The higher rate is at my discretion, he replied. But there's one last piece of experience you need first. What's that then? She asked. I thought we'd done everything on your bucket list. Well, I've always liked the idea of being taken care of afterward, he said with a sly grin. You naughty man, she exclaimed. Will you do it? He pressed. If you're good, she teased. Don't worry, I will be, he promised. Saturday, I went round to my techie friend Darren with a proposition. He was always short of money. First, he confirmed there was indeed a tracking app on my phone. You usually have time on your hands, I said, and you like doing the odd job for me. Cash in hand, right? Correct. And I'm a bit broke right now, so anything other than murder gets my agreement, mate, Darren replied. No need for murder, I'll do that myself, I joked. It went over his head. How does this sound? I drive round here Tuesday morning, pick you up and take you to the station. You catch the train to Edinburgh and take my mobile phone with you. Send my pre-written message when you get to Waverley Station. You get to spend 2 nights in the Cairn Hotel and sample the nightlife. Do a bit of Christmas shopping. Catch the train back on Thursday afternoon. No questions asked, I proposed. Edinburgh? That's hours away, he protested. Correct, I confirmed. If my plan goes wrong and I can't join you, hand the phone in at Waverley Lost Property as you return. But if the plan works, I'll be joining you on Wednesday. You give me my phone back and I'll get you drunk. Okay, how much? He asked. Tickets and hotel already paid for on my credit card. Taxis, walking around money. Say £200 now and another 200 when my job's done, I offered. Deal, he agreed. On the way home, I stopped off and got 2 more front door keys cut. For the whole of Monday, I felt like I was holding my breath. I warmed Janice's car again on Tuesday morning, but didn't bother checking the odometer. It's a stupid compulsion anyway. While she was brushing her teeth, I opened her handbag and switched her basement key for a new front door key, and did the same with the spare behind the door. Yale keys all look the same, don't they? After she'd left for work, I went to Darren's and delivered him to the station, then booked into a nearby hotel. It got dark soon after 4, and I was in Blueberry Way by past. Anyone seeing me enter would dismiss it as perfectly normal. The heating had just come on. I left a message on my old dictaphone. It was battery-operated and had more than enough charge left to play my message back several times. I put it in my pocket and went to the basement. I noticed Janice had already selected a film for tonight's entertainment. They were going to watch a special to get them in the mood. Everything was set. The wrong keys were in the right place. The house was nice and warm, and my phone was in Edinburgh. Then I waited in my home office. She never went in there. My computer was displaying her phone. I watched a message arriving from her husband. Hi, babe. Arrived safely in Edinburgh. We'll call about 10 p.m. from hotel. Love you. Soon I was tracking her phone leaving work and driving to her boss's house. I remembered the moment this had all kicked off, when her odometer had warned me. Now this was the moment it could all fall apart. What if they stayed there? I knew her plan was to return here, but plans can change. She waited ages. Maybe he was picking up his overnight stuff, or maybe they were having a quick moment. I was just starting to get concerned when she was in motion again. But now what? They weren't coming here. Sugar. They headed into town, but the panic was soon over. I knew that street. They were getting a pizza. Take these straight to the basement, under the stairs, she instructed her boss. I'll open a bottle of wine. This door's the wrong way round, he called up. Don't worry, there's plenty of keys, she reassured him. I heard the pop of a bottle and glasses wobbling on a tray. I stayed where I was while they settled. I did not hear the basement door close. No problem, I'll do that for them. I gave them 10 minutes to get their hands full of pizza, wine, and each other. I double-checked I still had all 3 basement keys, then grabbed the dictaphone and crept down the newly carpeted stairs. I peeked around the doorway and took in the scene. Her boss was sitting on the sofa, dressed in silk boxers and holding a glass of my finest red wine. Janice, partially undressed, leaned back as he traced patterns on her skin with the burgundy. She was nibbling a slice of meat feast. Appropriate, really. It caught me off guard to see her in black stockings and suspenders. I had never seen her wear them before, so I could only assume she changed at work. The 2 of them were illuminated by the tree lights. The TV was on, and the film had been paused at an intimate moment. The actress was also wearing black stockings. I brought your other Christmas present, I shouted, holding up the little cassette player. Their reaction was classic. He managed to slosh wine into his eyes. As he rubbed them, Janice dropped the pizza onto her little black thong. Loverboy could lick that up later if he could find it in the dark. She watched open-mouthed as I placed it on the floor just inside the door. They just had time to say, "What?" before I withdrew and closed it. They were locked in, but I twisted the double lock anyway. I waited a couple of minutes, listening. Did I mention the basement was soundproof? The banging on the steel door was barely audible, even down here. Eventually, I presumed they'd found some clothes. Then Janice began the fruitless attempt to unlock, first with her key, then the spare one. If she'd only been outside the house trying to get in, she'd have had more luck. I think I heard her pick up the dictaphone. Finally, the panic shouting started. I had one last task before going. There was an isolation switch outside the door. I closed it and waited a moment in the dark, imagining what was happening inside. The lights, TV, DVD would shut off instantly. They never would get to see that film star's mouth invaded, or any other mouth comes to that. Their phones wouldn't work, and the underfloor heating would only stay warm for a couple of hours. In fact, the only electrical item that would work was the cassette player I'd left them. I climbed the stairs, and when I closed the door at the top, I couldn't hear them shouting and knocking. I would have to retrieve that dictaphone and get rid of Janice's front door keys before I called the police. I knew what I'd say to them. "We had a terrible row, officer. She wanted me to go away over Christmas. I told her many times to make sure she had the right keys. There are 2. I was going to get the door changed next week, so it could be locked from the inside." The house was dark when I walked back to the hotel. Early start tomorrow, catching the Edinburgh train. "But you said he'd arrived in Edinburgh," Janice exclaimed. "He had," her boss replied. "Maybe he flew back. I told you he was acting suspiciously." "Pity you didn't act on those suspicions," she snapped. "That's right. Blame it all on me," he retorted. "It's not helping, though." "How long do you think he'll leave us down here?" she asked fearfully. "Not very long. He's just making a point," he reassured her. "Ah, I think this must be play." Then the voice recording played. "Hi, babe. Good job, lover boy thinks you're so hot. You'll be needing to do something to keep warm. The weather forecast says it'll freeze tonight, by the way. I'm off to Scotland now. I'll be staying the weekend. In fact, as my mum is half Scottish, I may as well stay through to Hogmanay. I'll see you when I get back in the new year. Though you won't see me, of course. I'll give your love to Mum." The new year passed quietly at 9 Blueberry Way. Number 10 took their lights down on January 2nd, and the postman stopped delivering to number 9 after the letters started piling up behind the door. It was Mrs. Thornton at number 7 who first raised the alarm. She hadn't seen either of the Hamiltons since before Christmas, and Janice's car hadn't moved from the garage. The police arrived on January 8th, finding the house empty but undisturbed. Tea mugs in the sink, a bed still made, and an extinguished Christmas tree in the lounge. 3 days later, when the forensic team moved the welcome mat in the understairs cupboard, they found the false floor, and beneath it, the contents of the basement. The coroner's report was unambiguous. Death by hypothermia, roughly 2 weeks prior. The male victim had attempted to use the dictaphone as a tool to pry open the door. It was found smashed to pieces. The female victim's fingernails were broken and bloody from similar attempts. I read about it in the Edinburgh Gazette. By then, I'd found a flat in Leith and a job at a call center. Darren had moved on too, though last I heard he was in Spain. Yesterday, I received notification that the house had been sold. 9 Blueberry Way fetched a surprisingly good price considering its history. I suppose the clever estate agent didn't mention the basement. Number 9 has always been my lucky number after all. I used my share to buy a ticket to Prague. I'm going alone. I didn't fancy the Seychelles. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.